Hi, this is Chris. Welcome to part 3 of my fall journal. So in the first part I show how I got this book, and in the second part I chose the pages, and in this part I'll show how I sew in the pages on a hidden spine. Last week when I decorated this, I had trouble finding a label, so I decided to make my own labels. And I was talking to my neighbor and crafting buddy, and I showed her the labels that I had made, and she said, you should make a digital kit out of that. So of course I did. So this is the kit. It's Journal Labels Kit. It's season and planner titles and labels in 3 sizes. And so here's fall and autumn in black and white, fall and autumn in autumn colors, and some little dingbats. And here's winter and Christmas in 4 different fonts and in colors. Spring and summer in black and white, and spring and summer colors. And then here are some smaller versions, 2 different sizes here. We also have journal and diary, and in colors, and in smaller sizes. And I threw in all these little dingbats. And then here are some planner labels, Monday through Sunday, January through December, in the same 4 fonts, and then some little the year and some notes and plans and ideas. So that's a little kit in my Etsy shop, and there'll be a link in the description. The fonts that I used here, this is do-it-yourself time, hand is the variation. And then this one is Adore You, regular. This one is Bow Tie, regular. And this one is Caprescent. So I list the fonts there in case you would like to install these fonts on your own computer. And so there's, I think there's 13 pages altogether, and that will be in my shop. That was a lot of fun to make. I can use that on lots of journals. This particular way that I am inserting the pages in this journal is a little more advanced. There's a lot of other ways to do it. You can sew directly through the spine. There are other ways to add a hidden spine. On this one, I actually save the end papers intact so that they can be used. So I will show you now how I do that. Now I'm going to stitch my signatures onto my hidden spine. So I need to find a piece of sturdy cardboard that'll fit here. I have this piece of notebook cover. It's from one of those spiral Mead notebooks. It's really strong. So I want to cut this to fit here. I don't want it to go underneath the end papers because that will impinge on the closing of the book. So I want it to be, I'm pressing just slightly, I want it to be right about there. And then I want it to be the same length as the end papers. So right about there. Let's see how that goes. So that's a little too wide. I can feel it's very tight in this little gusset of the book. So I'm going to take a little bit more off. I'm lining it up against the grid on my cutter board. It has some 1/8 inch and 1/4 inch lines right here to the right of the cutter. So I'm lining it up with that. And that didn't go through. So I'm going to line it up from this side. Because when I close the book, I want it to fit sort of, let's see if I open it, between this part and this part. I don't want it to fit within this part here. I don't want it to fit in the wide part. So I want it to fit between there and there. So maybe a little more. So if I let the book sit natural without spreading it out, that fits in there comfortably. It looks a little bit wider at the top. So I'm going to straighten it out, trim a little bit more off. Okay, that feels good. Still a little bit of give. So now I need to mark where I'm going to sew. So use a centering ruler. I find the center. I mark my top. And then the next signature, it won't be right in the center. It'll be about 2/3 of the way. So less room on this side, more room on that side. So I'm going to put this right here, which is 3/8. And right here. Then I'll find my vertical center. This doesn't have to be totally exact. If it's a 1/8 of an inch off or something, nobody's going to really notice. And then I'll take about an inch. Well, I'll just take about 1.25 inches here. And right here. I just use the lines on my centering ruler to line up with these so that my cross line is straight. And so this is where we will be sewing in our signatures. So I'm going to start with this pokey tool, and then I'm going to make the holes a little bit larger with a needle. So I have here a couple pieces of thick foam, and I'm just going to poke those holes. Then I'm going to take my large needle and see if I can make those holes a little bigger. And this is the needle I will use to sew, so I'm just going to make sure it will go in there. And that looks good. I still want to add a few little things in here, so this is the time to do it. This will be glued together and make a pocket so that I don't have to see the upside down calendar, and it will help to strengthen that page. So I think I like the way this tea dye came out. It looks like wood. So I'll put that in there. So I have these other pieces, but I think I'll use those as embellishments. I just want to be sure everything's where I want it. And then I'll use this to mark where my sewing holes will go. So I'll put the top all the way at the top. That way I can make sure that all the signatures will land correctly. So I'll do that with the other two signatures. So September will be first, and it'll go on the left-hand side. I'm going to get some clips. And I'm going to use my needle to make sure everything is lined up nice and straight. So I'm going to tie it on the back side of the book, so I'm going to go through this one first. And this one. Then I'm going to go through the middle one. Top one. Leave my room to tie. And then back through the middle one. So now I'll just make sure everything's nice and tight. Put this underneath. Tie a square knot. So that's our first signature. The next one will be October, and it will go on the center line. Another thing you can do to hold the pages in place is you can stick paper clips in them. Like that. Like that. That will help keep your holes lined up. So the pages are sewn, and I trimmed a little off here and here because I want to make a headband. Here's an old book from the 30s, 1938, and I wanted to show you that even with an inexpensive book like this that was printed in the thousands probably, they put a little headband right here. So I can't keep it in the light and get it close at the same time. So this is a little woven piece of cloth. I can show you one that I've taken out of a book. So this is where I put little headbands that I've pulled out of books. So you can see it's a little piece of woven cloth and then some woven colored threads. So I'm not going to do any woven threads. I have done that for some journals that I've made, books that I have made from scratch. But what I thought I would do is take a piece of burlap. I thought that would be suitable for fall. And these came in my fall haul, which I did a video of that a few weeks ago. It was from several Etsy shops, and they're a little bit bulky for my use, so I thought I would take this one apart and use it to make headbands. It's already nicely folded right here, and I don't need to go very far. I'm going to go about an inch. And then I'm going to cut this about the width of my spine, just slightly longer. And I'll make two, so I'll make a headband and a tail band. I think this has some zigzagging on the edge. I don't think I want that. So I'm going to cut right about there. And then the second one. Just try to get that fold out of it. Then I'm going to put a little bit of glue just to keep it from unraveling. This burlap sheds almost as much as my cat does. So I'll just let those sit there and dry for a while. So while these dry, I'll put them up here on this plastic so they don't glue themselves to something else. I'm going to show you the mousseline. So this is mousseline. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. It's a book cloth used on the spine. Here's the package. Super mousseline, open weave cotton, excellent adhesive penetration. This is made by Line Co. Company, and I got it on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description below if you're interested in using this. So what we're going to do is we're going to glue some of this to the spine after we put on our headband, and it will be trimmed just about 3/8 of an inch maybe along there. And when we glue in our spine, the mousseline will go underneath the end papers. You can see where the old mousseline is from the original book. And that helps to give the book block some strength. You can see the mousseline on here. Might try to pull some of that off so I have room for some new mousseline. Now originally this mousseline goes all the way in about 1.5 inches. I can't quite see. Yeah, it goes, I can just barely see. Mousseline actually goes to about there, but I don't want to pull the end papers out and take a chance on ripping them. So I'm going to just glue it right in here. So I will clean this up while the headbands continue to dry, and then I will be back. The glue holding the old mousseline in is very dry and brittle, and I'm just being very careful to kind of chip it off the paper. I don't want to tear the paper any more than I did when I was taking out the pages. Like there's a bit of a rip right there, but I can fix that. So I'm just going to take my time and pick this off. I like to have a clean surface to work on, and then we'll continue from there. These are still a little bit tacky, but I'm going to go ahead and start with them. So I'm going to put one right here like this. So I'll put some more glue on it and put it just slightly above the edge of the pages. I want it to stick out a little bit above the spine. The bottom one, same thing. This one I don't want it to stick out too far because it'll be sitting on a shelf, and so I want it to be fairly level with the pages. Meanwhile, I'm going to measure and cut my mousseline. So I want it to be about 3/8. I think if I have to, I can trim it before I actually glue it in. You can just follow the weave. So I have this mailing box. I just taped up the sides so it's firm, and I use it as a book stand. So I'll find the center of my center signature, and I'll put it right side up to me, and so that just hangs on there. If it feels a little like it might fall over, oops, I can put this book in there to weigh it down. So that makes an easy stand. So I can use both my hands to apply the mousseline. And I'll trim that. So for this, I'm going to use PVA glue, which is a bookbinding glue. So this is my PVA glue. I got it on Amazon. It's pH neutral, professional quality archival adhesive. Dries clear, remains flexible, ideal for bookbinding and paper projects. So this is just a paper dish with gesso and acrylic paint and stuff that's dried up. So I'll put some PVA glue in there, and I'll get a brush that I use for acrylics. I'll saturate this burlap, and then I'll just coat this and lay on the mousseline. In making this book, I'm using a combination of traditional bookbinding techniques and materials and junk journal bookbinding techniques and materials. Now this will take a while to dry, and I will go do something else and then come back to it. This is mostly dry. You can still see some of the whiteness of the glue before it turns clear. So what I do next is glue this little bit of mousseline down against the end paper. Then I will glue the end paper over the top of it. So I just want to make sure everything is fitting in there. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that in. I'll fast forward it so you don't have to sit there and watch me fiddle with it, because it could take a little while to get everything adjusted. The final step is to actually glue right along this edge here so that the end paper is glued right to the book block. Wow, they wanted $10.50 for this book. I know Ernie Pyle was pretty famous. I'm going to try to find time to actually read his book. So I'm going to put a line of glue. You can kind of see a fold where it was glued to the original book block. Put a line of glue on here. This is kind of a complicated way to make a junk journal from a hardcover book. There's lots of different ways to do it. And this idea I pretty much got from just taking apart books and doing bookbinding over the years. So if you missed the first two videos, I show how I got this book and books like this. And once you understand how a book is made, then it's easier to put it back together the way you want it put back together. Okay, so now that will sit and then it will be done. We'll let that dry. Now this video is getting kind of long, but I'll show you a real quick flip through. I haven't done any decorating yet. So here's September from Edith Holden and some scrapbooking paper. Here's a calendar. This will be glued into a pocket with an insert on this side. Tea-dyed doily, some tea-dyed paper, a book page. Here's a digital from Gail Augustinelli, some tracing paper from the newspaper I used to work at. And here is an original eco print that I made last summer. And then we have October. This also will be made into a pocket. A doily, some paper dyed with, I think this was Coreopsis flowers, a book page, a digital. Here's eco print, an original eco print of daisies. Here's November. This will be another pocket. This is dyed with onion skins. Another book page. Here's a digital. This is from Nick the Booksmith. Here's another original eco print of maple leaves that I did a couple years ago. And so that is the book. So far, I won't be able to do a video on decorating it quite yet because I have a couple other things planned that I need to do before I do this. But keep a lookout, and maybe one day I'll be able to do some decorating, or at least do another flip through of the final book. Thanks for watching, and have a great day crafting. Bye bye.